we're going to get started in just a second. Want to go over a couple things with everybody. If you have any questions for our guest speaker today, feel free to put them in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and I will ask them at the end of the presentation. And yeah, that's what I'll do. And also, if you are an adjuster on our roster and you want credit for being here today, and you had to log in on your phone number, or you just have a first name and not a last name, if you'll email me afterwards and let me know what that number was and the name, I will fix it on the attendance list, okay? All right, we're going to give everybody just a second to jump on, and we'll get started. Let me one second. All right, let me undo everybody. Jeff and Todd and David, if you'll go ahead and turn your cameras on and your mics, we'll get going. Okay. All right. Good deal. Let me see. Jeff.
Like my video is still stopped by you.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so I want to welcome everyone to today's episode of Claims Corner. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Today, CNC's property and flood training managers, David James and Todd Eisenberg, will be joining our guest speaker throughout the presentation. Not only are David and Todd trainers, but they've both been adjusters and know that when an adjuster gets a claim assignment, there are a lot of parties involved, and a lot of times the agent does get overlooked. So here to talk with us today about what an agent needs from the adjuster so that all parties are included is our guest speaker, Mr. Jeff Wyrsch. Jeff is the Vice President of Personal Insurance and Agency Principal at the Dyk Group since 2005. He holds multiple industry certifications and licenses and has a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering from Widener University. Jeff has served on multiple industry committees and is currently on the IIA-BNJ Board of Directors. He created a proprietary private flood insurance and coastal homeowners insurance program through Lloyd's of London in 2016. Jeff is also very active in his community with charity events and volunteering as a soccer coach with Stafford Soccer Club. Welcome to the program today, Jeff, and I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to see what I can do about your video. 1 second.
Okay, thank you for the very nice introduction.
You're welcome. And I will see everyone at the end. That should have turned you on. There you go.
There you go. Now you actually have to look at me. Well, again, thank you for that. I was just going to go into a little bit of my background and my agency's background. My agency has been a real estate and insurance agency since 1946. So we are in our 76th year now. Have always been very involved in coastal property insurance, have been involved with the National Flood Insurance Program since its inception. I've actually been with the agency since 1996, originally as an IT professional, but eventually moved over. It's a family business and got coerced into doing insurance. So here I am ever since. I've been running our personal insurance department since 2005. And through that, the thing that has really molded where I am today the most is was Hurricane Sandy. Our agency is on a barrier island in South Jersey, which was pretty much directly hit by Sandy. Being obviously a very big flood insurer, it was mostly a flood event. We had more than 4,000 flood claims in our agency, which I was really the spearhead in coordinating all of that. our biggest carrier, which is Selective Insurance for flood, assigned us CNC as pretty much our main adjusting firm throughout the entire process. So I worked with CNC pretty much every day for a good year and a half until all that was more or less settled. And I tell you what, it was a great experience, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here and still involved in keeping up a relationship with the good folks at CNC. Through all that, like Julie mentioned, I did, seeing how all those claims were handled and how the NFIP really worked on that kind of level, some of the things made sense. Some of the changes that were being made in the NFIP did not make sense. So I decided to try to start my own flood program, which I was successful in. I put a few programs together with Lloyd's of London starting in 2016. So since then, I've been both running our personal insurance department as well as a wholesale division where we can sell our flood products to other agencies. And currently just looking to make that bigger as well. So really, obviously, with my experiences through Sandy, I had quite a bit of experience with how the claims process works and what's needed on our end, and I would be happy to share that with you. And I believe David and Todd, you guys have some questions put together for me.
Hey, Jeff, and everyone else. I want to start off by just saying thank you for being here. I think we're going to get a lot out of this, just being able to talk to you and hearing from you, because really you're just an extension of the policyholder, right?
Yep.
I don't want to say you get lost in the translation or in the claim, but it's just so much, you're involved just as much as the policyholder. For example, when the weather that just went through, unfortunately here in or close by in New Orleans, there's a tornado that went through, and I think they were saying it was an EF3, and it was devastating looking at the pictures and the videos. And really, who is the first person that a policyholder or a customer thinks about, the face of the insurance company is their agent, right? That's the first person they call. And I'm sure you've gotten phone calls. It's not just through regular business hours, 8 to 5. Hey, I've got this or that.
Regularly.
In the middle of the night, that the attic fan catches on fire, and first thing they do is their safety, of course, getting out of the house. And then what do? Call my agent. I need to talk to somebody. So, having said that, one of the first things that, from an adjusting standpoint and claims adjusters that comes up, and one of the questions or one of the topics we can kind of elaborate on is, agents file claims for your policyholders sometimes, or help them file claims, right? You can be the point of contact. Sometimes It's contractors, public adjusters, whoever. So how much interaction, I guess, in regarding keeping the agent updated throughout the claims process? What do you need from adjuster? Do you want to be, depending on the policyholder and the customer and the length of the claim, how often do you want to be updated or kept in the loop as far as the claim process goes? Is it just on large losses, smaller claims? Some may not need that much attention. Other policyholders, or some policyholders, may need that attention because, again, I'll be honest with you. I've had claims in the past, or a couple of claims, and it was very, very minor. But if you don't know anything, if you've never experienced it before, your life's turned upside down, because you don't know what to do. I don't know any contractors. I don't know how to. I've got to take off work. I've got to miss work to meet this person, that person, this person. It's just thrown off. We're all creatures of habit and thrown out of our routine. So, where do you go? And agents, really, you guys, hold the customer's hand and help them through that process along with the adjuster. So,
Sure.
how do you feel about being kept up to date on I know not on every claim, but where does that come into play? If
I'll
I'm
tell
making
you,
sense of asking that right.
And I'm gonna preface this with a little kind of give you an idea from what I saw, after a huge event like Sandy, and really just being in it on a day-to-day basis. You're going to come across two different kinds of agencies. All right. Some agencies don't like getting involved in claims at all. They'll take the claim, they'll put it off to the adjusters or to the company. They might even recommend that the customer gets a public adjuster, and they want to wash their hands of that. We saw that more than we probably should have, but I like to think that there's there's more agents that are the other way. And now us as an agency, we will help our customer as much as we can from start to end. Obviously, we're not involved in the actual adjusting process or the settlement, but we try to be there for our customers. And I think, hopefully that's what you see the most of. And that's where the communication really comes into play. So like you said, they're going to call us first. And especially if it's a homeowners and it's their primary home, they're going to be distraught. They're going to be upset. And they're relying on us. So, the first thing we do is try to put their mind at ease, let them know what's going to happen, let them know they're going to be hearing from an adjuster. Hopefully you'll get their contact information. If not, you can give us a call and we go from there. Now, from our point of view, big or small, we like to be kept in the loop on what's going on. Obviously, if it's a small claim, every little note, every little email or piece of communication that goes through doesn't necessarily need to come to us, but anything significant that might help us answer our customers' questions, we like to be kept in the loop on, copying us on some of the emails, or if there's been a significant change or any kind of idea of how big the loss is. We definitely appreciate that kind of input. Because if we're not hearing, if the customer isn't hearing from the adjuster or goes a few days without hearing from an adjuster, they're going to call us. It'd be rare if we, throughout a claims process, we're not going to go through a week without hearing from that customer. And when we don't have any answers for them and have to kind of hunt that down, it makes it a little difficult at times. So, any kind of communication there from start to finish. And I think most agencies appreciate that, so that we can talk to the customers with what's going on.
Yeah, and the thing I'm glad you mentioned that, or you brought that up, is because in my past experience and in the training currently, just try to tell these folks and adjusters and people involved is, like you said, you're proactive. You want to stay in contact with your policy holders. That's the right thing to do, is to take care of them. They don't want to be pushed to the side. And I mean, that helps your relationships and grow your business and your trust on your current policy holders. But, like you said, if the policy holder doesn't hear from the adjuster, they're going to call you, or they're going to come into your office, and they're going to want to sit down, and they're going to be upset and want to know what's going on. And then, that really doesn't put you in a good position, because you're like, I don't know. So, what else do you do? Let's call the claims officer or the adjuster. So that's what we we want to reiterate that, and always keep everybody up to date on the status, what's happened, what's next, and here's the plan. So that's something, like you said, you don't want to get overwhelmed with every single email, but things like pertinent, like you said, pertinent updates. I know there's been some times in the past where some agents will actually want to hand deliver settlement checks to the customer, and we try to give that an option to the agent if they want to go out and if it's a large loss, or if it's something that is really significant. I think it's good to loop you in and give you that option to go out there, and since you're the face,
and there are definitely circumstances where we would like to do that, especially if it's somebody we know or a very important customer. And one thing that that our claims manager in-house kind of brought up yesterday, a very important thing is to just, a simple note that initial contact has been made. And, I've seen that, even recently seen that, I talk to the customer, I tell them, look, within the next day or so, but hopefully tomorrow at the latest, you'll be hearing from somebody. And then I just trust that that's going to happen. And then a few days later, if I hear back from that customer and they haven't been contacted, then I gotta, then I look foolish and I gotta look a little bit more to see what's going on. So a little note to the agency, just saying,
Exactly.
we called or left a message or got a hold of, and we're underway. Simple as that is useful to us.
Right.
Right.
And every really everyday claim and like cat situations, regardless, we want to do our best to stay in contact and talk to them. But, from an adjuster standpoint, if you're not constantly staying in touch with the customer and even the agent on certain things, you lose credibility and trust in the customer and the policyholder if you're not doing that. So,
Right.
again, that's, we want to make sure that we're doing that. I'm sorry, Todd, you were going to say something.
Well, no, it just brought me up when I've worked with Jeff back in Hurricane Sandy with CNC, and it just brought up some things that, I mean, when you're talking to the policyholder and you're talking to everything, does it really matter whether it's property or a flood claim? I mean, is the communication the same with the agent or is it different? I mean, because I know flood is in FIP, but property is actually your baby. It's put in by your business.
Yeah. There are definitely differences. Obviously, probably the biggest difference in a flood claim is just inherently the amount of time it takes to adjust. It just takes longer. You got that 60-page thing from the NFIP that you got to fill out, where detailing every room in the house and every inch that's been damaged. It's a long process. So yeah, I mean that, and again, whether it's a short, quick claim or Hurricane Sandy, and we know it's going to take months and months. These people are going to call us every single week, no matter what. Now, so yeah, there is a difference because we can get quick answers faster on a homeowner policy, but either way, the communication is still just as important because we want to be able to intelligently answer when our customers call with a question.
Right, but I've noticed in some situations, adjusters and agents have had communications beforehand regarding policy interpretations and how coverage is afforded. So how can we as adjusters and agents have the same discussion and work together so the policy interpretations are the same? I mean, where is the difference?
Yeah, well, one thing I've learned is from us or from an adjuster, never say definitively something is covered or not, because there might just be some odd thing in there that throws a wrench in things, and then we all look bad. And I know that usually it can be very straightforward, but you just don't know. Sometimes the policy looks incorrect and there's some uncertainty there. Giving any definitive yes or no is, without really digging into it and communicating with the carrier or the NFIP or whoever it may be, is just usually works out bad all around. Getting the customer looking forward to coverage that they're not going to have, or upset from being told that they don't have coverage for a certain item when maybe there is a way to get that. There's just always uncertainty out there, and I think we saw a hell of a lot of that after Sandy, and I'm sure you guys have seen a lot more with all the with all the storms that you've been through. So yeah, the biggest thing, like I said, don't give a definitive yes or no. Say, look, you can say, I believe this will be covered, but obviously it's up to the carrier, or if it's up to the NFIP, and you can discuss this further with your agent. Working together, I think, is the best route there. Every once in a while, you play we've seen people play a blame game a little bit, almost like, well, policy isn't written correctly, or your agent, didn't do this right. Obviously, we want to avoid anything like that. But we encourage, if you see something there that you're uncertain of as far as coverage or the way the policy is written, I would have no problem. I would never have a problem with encouraging the customer to talk to us about that. Say, look, I'm not sure about this part of your policy. You should talk to your agent, or even your agent's manager to find out what this is all about. Because sometimes there's things in there that are just not very clear, that can be answered from different people.
Right. Well, I know NFIP has their requirements. Property, you're going to have your requirements with first contact and stuff like that. And, I know just when you have 100 claims or 15 claims or 25 claims, that time frame is always different because you have to call all those policy holders. So is there anything and I've been an adjuster out there in the field, is there anything that maybe we can do as adjusters that could just help that curveball? I know we've talked about interaction with you before this with David and everything, but when we reach out to the policyholder, we're contacting the policyholder, we're setting up those inspection dates. I mean, and this goes back to what David, would you guys like that courtesy also saying, hey, we've set the inspection? Because again, agents don't necessarily know anything. I mean, once I get a claim, I'm going 100 miles an hour. And I'm just trying to help out because I know that I actually probably spoke with you. I know from your agency, we had a couple questions on some of the larger claims that I did. Right. But because they involve policy or public adjusters and or legal attorneys and stuff, so you wanted to be informed on those. So is there anything up front that we might be able to do? Send you an email? Phone call?
I mean, I think just something simple like that, just to, if you're setting up an inspection, knowing when that inspection is going to be is definitely helpful to us. Now obviously we don't want to slow you down when you're in a cat situation and you have 150 of these at a time. That may be counterproductive sometimes, but if you're scheduling it and you can just CC us on that kind of thing, that would always be useful.
Good. Okay. Well, good. Because I can put that into my training, just saying, hey, this is something that you might want to do as a courtesy. Let the agent know. Yeah. Especially after you set that inspection.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. I've found some times in the past too, where when we're trying to reach out to the customer who filed a claim, we can't reach them. We're calling every number, we're sending them an email, and we just can't get in touch with them. And then in the past, we've reached out to the agent's office and say, hey, Mr. and Miss so-and-so filed a claim. We can't get in touch with them. Oh yeah, they come by, every month, every couple of weeks, and they right. pay their premium, or they do this or that, or yeah, they're right down the street. They've got a new cell phone number that they gave us, or I can send them a little postcard in the mail to try to get in touch with them because they just, went out of town for something or whatever. So I found that to be very, very helpful.
Yeah, I think if you ever have trouble getting a hold of a customer, I would reach out to the agent sooner rather than later, because you never know. I mean, our agency management system, spits out a claims report that has an automatic phone number in there. Maybe there's a couple of different numbers we can give you, or different email addresses that we didn't put on there the first time, or didn't see that was missing. So yeah, I would say don't hesitate. Don't wait too long to do that kind of thing. If you're having trouble, go ahead and contact the agent, and we'll see what we can do to help.
Right. One of the other things that you had mentioned about not guaranteeing coverage, or if you're unsure, that we always try to remind folks is, if you're unsure, is just let the customer know, the policyholder know that, let me take a look, let me review your policy, and I'll get back to you. And that gives us time to get in touch with the agent's office if there is something. Maybe there's an endorsement. I know on the property side, some things they may not be transcribed over to the claim every time, and there may be an endorsement that's active that didn't come over on the deck page for whatever reason, or didn't come in, and we may be missing something to where I found in the past where, hey, you know what, it is attached and it does provide coverage or doesn't provide coverage for this or that. So
Right.
it's always good to keep that in mind as well. So based on your experience, what and just dealing with handling claims and in your office and having someone do that, is there an opportunity that you've seen that just sticks out or maybe reoccurs to where in dealing with claims and the policyholders that we as adjusters can improve on? Is there something that just, you'd like
yeah,
to?
you know what, obviously, like we said, and it's going to be a recurring theme, communication is key, working together. I think there are opportunities for us to back up what the adjusters are doing, and for the adjuster to kind of back up what the agency has done already. But one of the things that comes up quite a bit is what happens after that initial inspection. So inspection's been done, maybe if you're finished with that property and you don't need to go out there anymore, that's when we get a lot of questions like, okay, what do I do now? Do I start repairs? Do I hire a contractor? And we may not even know, like you said before, we may not even know that inspection is done. So we can, it's hard for us to advise, all right, can we get rid of some of this junk now, or anything. So I think right there, that's a question we get the most, is once that inspection's done, the customer's coming to us, all right, can I make repairs? And we might have to track that down. Or, all right, is it that time yet? Obviously, we always advise to remediate anything, prevent any further claims, or get a restoration company at least in there, try things out, whatever may need to be done. But
and that's part of their
gray,
duty.
there's that dead zone kind of right after when the adjuster's done at the property and we hear back from the adjusting firm or whoever it may be, the desk adjuster, when can we start moving forward? So that would be a great thing to just communicate, like, okay, here's what we're looking at. If they want to get started, and we can convey that to them, or you can convey that to them.
Yeah, that sounds like responsibility for the adjuster is just to better explain the claims process. We come out, we've got contact, and then we do an inspection. Here's what's covered, here's what's not, and then here's the next step. Here's your expectation and what needs to happen. We've come to an agreement, or we found what's covered. The next step is to find someone to do the repairs. Like I think you mentioned, as far as letting them know to mitigate. That's ultimately one of their duties as a policyholder, is to mitigate and prevent further damage. But here's the next step. Here's what you should do. Yeah.
And I would say, speaking of mitigating, that's the first thing we tell our customers. And hopefully, again, I would assume all or most agencies do the same thing, but you never know. You might, first thing we tell them is to do whatever you can to prevent further damage. If that means getting a restoration company now, or covering up a window or a door, whatever may need to be done, go ahead and do that. Just don't throw anything away. Make sure the adjuster can see everything that happened. And if they haven't started that, as an agent, hopefully that we had already advised them of that, but that should be something that the adjuster should advise too, as far as I'm concerned. And if they have any questions on that, have them contact us.
Right. We definitely don't want to get out there and all the furniture and personal property already out by the side of the road has been discarded and thrown away before we have the opportunity to get out there and see it and make a coverage determination for sure. Yeah, that's good.
Hey, Jeff, I got a great question for you. This always comes up every flood event, and I'm sure you've heard it in the past, or I'm sure you've received the responses from the, I guess, policyholders or your clients or whatever. So how should the policyholder, when the famous question comes up, My agent never told me that.
Well, of course, we hear that all the time. First of all, if you're dealing with an agent who is involved in this process, and it's something glaringly obvious that the agent should advise, chances are we have already somewhere along the line, and the customer just either didn't remember, didn't see it. But I think there's nothing wrong with telling that person, well, that's very unusual. I would contact your agent or your agent's manager and ask them about this, and I'm sure they'll have some answers for you. Because now, of course, every once in a while something gets missed, but in most cases, the customer doesn't understand the policy the same as the agency does, or the same as the adjusters do even. So it may just be something that they don't know. But usually, I as an agency owner, I would welcome that call and walk through whatever the concerns are with that customer.
That's good advice. And the reason is because, I don't like placing blame on anybody when I'm out there as an adjuster. So when a policyholder is asking me that, they didn't tell me that was covered. They didn't tell me that wasn't covered.
Right.
I just said, well, ma'am, it's in your policy. You signed your policy. You signed up for this. So, you should have known. At that time, you probably got a copy of it. I don't know how you say this. I kind of shift focus. I want them to change topics. So I'll bring up, hey, here's some of the damages that I've noted and stuff, just to make it easier and try to relinquish that. But then at the end, that's one of those things I say, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me again, or feel free to reach out to your agent. And if your agent has any questions, he can call me too, or she can call me too, and then we can talk. And that way, I just kind of, not an scapegoat, but kind of change the topic and keep them moving forward, because again, we're there for the damages on scene, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of them.
Right. And again, and that's outstanding. And I also think, that would be another communication point. Let us know, hey,
exactly.
Hey, look, the customer said this. You may want to reach out to them, or you may want to look into it, because again, I would reach out to that customer, do some research, and try to figure out where the miscommunication is.
Okay.
Let's building on that. So when we go out and we do an inspection, and we let the customer know what's covered, what the recommendation is. A question comes up: who's responsible? Are you going to take care of these repairs? My insurance said that they would take care of it. Is it okay? The question comes up: is it okay to refer them to the agent to say, they may know someone locally who does the repairs? Maybe they can refer some folks to you, or do we stay away from that for liability issues, or
well,
that's kind of the topic that comes up?
I think every agent's going to handle that a little differently. But in general, now what we do at our agency, and our customers ask us all the time, who can I get to do the repairs? We generally have a list of contractors that we know of. We don't say we recommend any of them. We know they're local contractors, and usually we do know that they're reliable, or somebody that we trust. But we never recommend just one person. We never say you should say. Well, we let them know, here's a list of people that you can try. We can't either say, we can't really make recommendations, because like you said, there's liability issues there, but we don't have a problem providing a list of contractors in situations like that. Now, I personally, right there, obviously, it is the insured's responsibility to schedule and take care of the repairs with the contractor. No problem, an adjuster telling the customer that, of course. And I, for one, don't have any problem with you telling them that, they may want to ask their agent if they have any recommendations. Because again, we have a procedure in place there, and we feel comfortable with that. That list was 2.5 pages long after Sandy, because every contractor in the country came to New Jersey.
Right.
But even in normal circumstances, we always have kind of a list of a few regular people, and they're not all our insurance customers. Some of them are, some of them aren't. We make sure to protect ourselves and not necessarily recommending anyone over the other, or telling them who they should use. We just give them a general list, or you can find somebody yourself.
Yeah, I like that, just because simply, personally, I had years back, I bought a house and was getting the cable service transferred over to the new home, and this goes back to the little minor incident or claim or whatever you want to call it that I had. But long story short, the installer come out and was doing his job and stepped through the ceiling of the living room while he was, hooking it up, and I was here, and thank God I knew something about the industry and the claims and different things, but just putting myself in just someone who doesn't do this for a living, their shoes, as small as it may seem. I was a customer. I had to take off work to meet the installer out there, and now got damage to my home. Now, what do I do? I mean, do I call my agent, or do I try to handle it myself? Or if I had a claim, I don't know anybody in the construction business or the repair business. So thankfully I do, but just from the other's standpoint, who do I reach out to? I mean, and I think the agent is a good resource, like you said, and you've got some options. You're not pinpointing it to say use this person or use this person, but here's some options we know in the local area. It's just a helpful tool to get started, and it's ultimately up to them. We want them to be comfortable in who they choose to do the repairs, and we'll work.
Absolutely. Yep.
We'll work with them
we
to
feel
the
the
best of
same
our
way.
ability. Yeah. The goal, of course, is to put them in the condition prior to the loss, and we do whatever we can within the policy guidelines to make that happen. And having you guys provide them with some options is very helpful. I've just through experience.
Yep. No, I totally agree with that.
One thing that policy holders and I've noticed this on claims that I've done both property and flood side, I think one of the questions or one of the things that policy holders are afraid of is, the number one, or I don't know if it's their number one question, are my premiums going to go up? Well, on the FEMA side, obviously, NFIP side, they're not, but they're afraid to file homeowners claims and stuff like that. I mean, my daughter just a small story. I had the same type of incident. Drywallers were out there, and the HVAC guys came out later, and the drywallers just finished hanging all the drywall. Everything looked great. We were getting ready to paint. HVAC guys came out and fell through the ceiling. Yeah. So I called the HVAC guy saying, hey, I'll take care of this, blah, blah, blah. And, but because my daughter, because she filed a hurricane claim, didn't want her premiums or anything like that. So she was scared. So maybe you can help, because we've got property adjusters on this call, flood adjusters. Maybe you can help answer some of those questions and how that really is affected.
Yeah. Well, and that's a complicated question that is becoming increasingly more complicated as we go along, because like you said, with the NFIP, that's not going to be true anymore. NFIP is going to take claims into account.
It is.
We haven't seen how that's going to affect the premiums yet, but it certainly seems like it will going forward. And on top of that, now you got all these private flood markets. What's going to happen? More than likely, the rates are going to go up, or they're going to be dropped from a private market. we get that question all the time. Now, sometimes it's a question, should I even submit this claim? You know, that's very much up to each individual. If you can take on this claim, you know, if it's just a small amount and it doesn't hurt you financially, that might be your best route sometimes. What we always tell a customer is any rate increase due to claims is 100% up to the carrier. We don't have any say in that. And in many circumstances, yes, the premium will go up. In many circumstances also, even after that claim is settled, we may be able to find them an alternative that with a different carrier that prevents their rates from going up, or at least not as much. So there's always options. I wouldn't ever say definitely yes, definitely no. Say that, you know, that's really a question for your agent. We're okay. You know, we get that day in, day out anyway. And you know, it's ultimately, it's up to the carrier and how they rate things on whether your premium is going to go up and how much it's going to go up. But you know, there are like I said, we've flat out advised people not to submit, you know, some small claim. You know, if it's a $1,500 loss and they have $1,000 deductible, well, is $500 worth it? You know, causing your premium to possibly go up, or needing to switch carriers? That is obviously an individual choice for every insured, but you know, ultimately we deflect that a little bit on saying it's up to your carrier, but we also try to reassure them that there may be other options that can help prevent or help keep the costs reasonable.
Another thing that I keep thinking about too is I'm going to kind of shift focus a little bit, because I've worked with you up there in Sandy, and I know you've mentioned Selective, and I know where you're located. I'm sure you have a large clientele of commercial losses up there. And one of the adjusters, especially with NFIP property, I'm not sure on how that all works with it, but I know with NFIP, we're required to get their firstborn, their, you know, everything with it. Yeah. So, you know, proof of ownership for this, proof of ownership for the contents, proof of ownership, who owns the land, is there a lease? When you guys are forming, or the agency is forming a policy or for that, do you guys keep all that stuff on record? Are you a source that adjusters can use to help get that information to help expedite the claim? Because sometimes the policyholders don't know.
Right. Well, I'll tell you that we are definitely a possible source for that information. It's going to depend a lot on what policies we provide to that customer. Now, if we have all their coverage, you know, all their liability, property, everything, we're likely going to have a lot of that information from those original applications. If it's flood only, we're not going to have anything. But you know, it's the info for the flood insurance, and that's all. You know, so it's really going to depend. But I would say that one way or another, we're still a good source, because I think in most cases, if we're working with that business owner, we'll be able to communicate probably more regularly with them, and they'll probably be a little bit more willing to give us that information because we have worked with them for X amount of time and they're comfortable with us. So I would always consider us a good resource for that, but whether we have it on hand really depends on what kind of business they've placed through us.
I actually had to deal with something like that on a claim that I was helping with up in Hurricane Ida. There was 3 DBAs in regards to this. So there was one policy, then it was a doing business as, then a doing business as. And the last doing business as didn't want to release any information. So I actually had to get the agent involved. And I called the agent and I says, listen, I'm having some difficulties here. We're trying to get all the business documents and all the tracking available for this. I've got the main business, but I don't have the doing business as and how the changes all there. And the agent, he said, yeah, he said, give me 2 days and I'll get it all. And next thing you know, the agent came back and said, here you go. Here's all the information. I was able to go see, and actually they just drove down the street or wherever to the, policyholder and said, hey, we just need to get all this information for this FEMA flood claim, and then it will be closed. Yeah. Everything's done. We just need this information.
Sure.
So that was good. Well, thank you for helping me out with that, because I'm sure some of the adjusters will appreciate that too that are on the call, because that's one of our difficult things with large losses, especially, is just getting that information and making sure it's correct. One thing, making sure it's correct, and then submitting it to the carrier for review.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And like I said, I think the agent is always a good resource for that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I want to ask you, or one more thing, or want to bring up, is just listening to the conversation. Is it's always, well, let me ask you this: is it a good practice at the end of the claim, towards the end of the claim, during the claim, for adjusters to tell the customer, the policyholder, to stay in touch with your agent, and once all your repairs are done, you need to review it with your agent for all the repairs and improvements? Some folks take advantage of the time. It's unfortunate what happens to them, but at the same time, they may, when they do the repairs, they may do some upgrades, or they may have something else. And by the time, at the initial time of the policy, this is what they qualify for, and this is how their premium was calculated. But now they've got a new roof, they've got new flooring, they've got new paint, whatever the case is. So sometimes they may qualify or may have a lower premium because of the repairs and the damages that happen. Is that true or not? And is that a good,
absolutely
good thing to tell the customer to follow up with the agent? Say, hey, always, it's just like going to the doctor. For me, trying to put it in perspective, is get a checkup and see what's available to you.
That is always good advice. Yes. And definitely, for multiple reasons, like you said, all the improvements, or maybe they did more than just the repairs. They added on an extra few rooms, or maybe there's better or different coverage options for them now that they've updated their roof or other things. There may be ways to reduce their premium. We had one of the losses in Sandy was a house that, we've written for 60 years. And they had completely knocked down and rebuilt a brand new house, twice the size, never told us. So they had this policy. Now, we talk to them almost every year. We send them stuff every year. They never decided to tell us, hey, by the way, that house doesn't exist anymore. We had this picture of this little old ranch. Now it's this big 2-story house up on pilings. So yeah, I mean, anything like that, it's always good to recommend to the customer.
Got one last question for you.
Sure.
This is a good one. So, and I know because you deal with selective and everything up there. So, an RC BAP. So when we're dealing with RC BAPs, one of the things that as adjusters we have to find is the appraisal or evaluation or something like that to show the value of the building. I mean, when you're dealing with a $65 million skyrise in Hoboken or something like that, it's my understanding that the agency is supposed to have an appraisal on that every 3 years. So do you know, or am I talking correctly, or is there a different scenario that you guys have?
Well,
Because
that's something that that's actually something that's a little bit more on the association than it is on the agent. Now, we don't have a resource and are generally not responsible for determining the valuation of a commercial property or an RC BAP, a condominium association. And in general, that's not our area of expertise. So now, will we have something on file there? Now, again, the NFIP doesn't ask for it. If we do the property on that building, sure, we're going to have that kind of thing. But typically we don't go out and seek that purely on a flood policy because it's not a requirement. Now it's a little different with risk rating 2.0. We are required to submit that. And this is raising a little bit of a ruckus in our industry here, because again, we are not valuation experts in any way. It's simple enough to plug something into MSB and have it shoot out a rate. But when you're talking, like you said, a 50-story high rise, that's not going to cut it. So that's so now what do we have to do? We have to tell the association to go out and spend $10,000-$15,000 to get an appraisal on the building. It might be something that's necessary and more necessary going forward. But in general, like I said, on a flood policy, we're most likely not going to have that for an RCBAP, unless it's newer, if we just did one, or if we have the overall property insurance on that, we may have it in that circumstance, because then, typically an insurance company holding the general property insurance on that, they're going to do an evaluation of that replacement cost themselves. So we will have that from the company. But if we don't have that policy, we don't have that information in our agency.
That's usually your fire policy, correct?
Right.
That you guys, yeah.
I'm sorry, I lost connection after I asked you that. I don't want you to repeat anything, but did you ask me a question I didn't respond to? If so, I'll respond to it. Otherwise, I don't want to hold you up.
Nope.
Okay.
I didn't think anything came up, did it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're good,
All
David.
Well, that's all I got. I really appreciate just the chance to sit here and chat with you and get your perspective and from the other side of things. I think it's really helpful and beneficial to know, what we've talked about today and learned, and I can't thank you enough. I just want to express that. So thank you.
Sure. Yep. No, absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
Yep, it was good talking to you again. It's been a while.
You too.
Hey, Jeff. We have a couple of questions. Actually, there are two questions that are kind of the same, so I'm going to rephrase them a little bit. But can the agents see inside the claims management system of the IA firm to see notes or inspection dates or anything like that?
In most cases, we cannot. Now, as a wholesale broker, also, with that business, there are times where I can, and we have a relationship more directly with the adjusting firm, and we have that ability. But on the retail side, most independent agents do not have that ability to go in and look at that. So that's why the communication either from the field agent or the desk agent is key to us.
Okay. So to answer the people that were in here, you will need to make sure you let the agent know you inspected or whatever. That's just as a courtesy, because like you said, for the most part, they cannot see inside the IA firm's claims management system. Okay. A comment was made earlier about pictures. The policyholder needs to take pictures of damaged items and all that before it gets thrown away. Can the agent, or does the agent tell the policyholder to take these photos when they call in the claim? Do they say, hey, take pictures, take pictures, take pictures? Or do they not?
We do, and I think in most cases, agents will do that. We do tell them, again, especially when you're talking flood, there's a lot to do right away to prevent mold and everything like that. So we recommend definitely reach right out to a restoration company, but photograph, monitor, catalog everything. Don't throw anything away. Don't put it at the curb, because then the township might come get it. If you need to put things outside, do that. But yeah, we definitely tell them to document everything, start to finish, even before the restoration company may come out.
Okay. If anyone else has any questions, you can quickly put them in the box for me and I'll ask.
There's a couple in the
I'm
chat
not
room,
seeing
Julie.
anything really come up, but
I saw one pop up that said, what can field adjusters do better?
okay, my thing just moved, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's all right. And so one thing that, and I mentioned it a little bit before, but maybe it'll be good to get into an instance. But again, when we talk about the field adjusters, one of the worst things to do is to give the customer an idea of something that definitely will or definitely will not be covered, or something that's wrong with their policy. And here, and again, one thing that we saw a lot of in Sandy is finished enclosures. All right, so around us, there's a lot of buildings up on pilings. They're built up to code. The enclosure underneath the pilings were nice and empty when they got their inspection from the town, and then a few years later they decide to finish the whole thing. We have adjusters come in here and just say, well, none of this is going to be covered, or your policy is written wrong, or something like that, where it really either put the customer in a panic, or really caused or made us look bad, or all kinds of things there. So that's just one of the things. We saw dozens and dozens of those. And obviously, yeah, there's going to be a question on the coverage. We had one instance where similar to that, there was an enclosure that was fully finished that they didn't know it was finished when we wrote the policy. The total loss was almost $100,000, but because it was written as an elevated home, they're only paying $20,000. So now Selective says, well, look, if they pay $5,000 to rate it properly, then we'll give them the rest of the $100,000. I said, well, why don't you just take the $5,000 off the top and pay them out, and we'll do it that way. But again, even if it looks like there's definitely not going to be coverage, well, there might be a way to get coverage for that. And that was a $75,000 difference there, just by the customer coming up with a way to do without $5,000 in premium. So there's always a gray area. So that's always the biggest thing. Don't deal in definitives when it talks to what's covered and what's not, and whether the policy is right or wrong, because there's a lot of factors out there that could have affected that.
Right. Well, I have found in my experience examining files and dealing with policyholders and adjusters that honestly the agent can clear up confusion, and or sometimes they're just unaware of things, or they can help you track down things. So it's always a good idea to contact them and just introduce yourself, if nothing else.
Yep, absolutely. We always welcome that.
Well, I don't see any more questions or comments. So with that,
Yeah.
I want to say thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us, and thank you, David and Todd, for helping
Thank you
out.
for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I've enjoyed meeting you and talking with you, preparing for this.
Me too. It's been a good experience.
All right, everyone. We will see you in 2 weeks for the next Claims Corner, and have a great weekend. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Have a good one.
See you later, Jeff.
Take care.